Howard Nelson Cromwell is a TV personality, a socio-political commentator. He is a military veteran, a patriot, a longtime Republican, and now the managing editor of the Conservative Urbanite. He also goes by that moniker. He's a conservative media The Conservative Urbanite is a conservative media and news organization comprised of an online community, a website, and soon a TV show and podcast. And the wonderful thing about this is where free-thinking conservatives can go to get a real talk perspective on issues important to them, things that matter to us without the fluff. And Howard recently published an article entitled Black Lives Matter Narrative Dispelled Again, an analysis of officer-involved deaths of black people. Now, I must tell you that Howard is an African-American himself. After an exhausting 2 months of research and analysis of black deaths by police officer, the Conservative Urbanite and Howard once again dispelled the narrative that black people are being killed by police at a disproportionate rate. And you will be even more shocked at what he found in the report on the numbers. Please welcome Howard Nelson Cromwell. Welcome, Howard. I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Hello, Carla Cash. How are you?
I am doing great, my friend. It is a thrill to have you. I am so happy to expose you to more people and to let more people learn about you. I want them to go to your website. I want them to read this article. By the way, I have posted the article on my Facebook page, facebook.com/thatcarlacash. So be sure that after you listen to the interview with Howard that you go and you check out that article. You will be amazed. Howard, tell us about the article that you wrote, the exhaustive work that went into it, and the truth that you discovered about the Black Lives Matter movement.
Okay, absolutely. So I would say probably about 2 or 3 years ago when the riots and, when the Black Lives Matter movement was really kind of like at its peak and the riot was happening and Ferguson and Baltimore and things like that. I was listening to an NBC or MSNBC news show, Melissa Harris Perry, and, through all that time, what I kept finding out is that these Black Lives Matters kind of movement talking heads would come on to cite these it seemed to me astronomical numbers about, this disproportionate rate of, how many of us black people are being killed by, law enforcement. And so I was sitting and talking to my business attorney, who I call a bleeding heart liberal. He's an older white liberal, and he says, "Well, no, I'm sure this is right." And he said, "Listen, you're an analytical person, so why don't you take this one as a project?" And just to back up, when this was going on, I believe I was still in the federal government. I was a management analyst for HUD, so I managed a bunch of numbers and a bunch of money for HUD. So in any case, so I went through and I did kind of just a preliminary research to find that the numbers were completely skewed to fit the Black Lives Matters movement narrative. I found that it was the way that they were reporting the numbers, they omitted a bunch of different circumstances. They omitted whether the person was armed and dangerous, whether they were stabbing or shooting someone in the middle of a crime. They admitted all of these things. So, 2 years ago, I didn't go into that much research, but like I said, I did a very preliminary one, and it was very, 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 obvious to me that the numbers were skewed. So fast forward, 2 years later, now we're in the height of this, the NFL national anthem protest. And so, the whole reason this whole national anthem protest started was because the Colin Kaepernick was said that he was doing it in protest to, the Afro-Americans being, kind of killed or shot by police officers. And so he built this whole kind of movement, this protest on these numbers that Black Lives Matters folks were feeding the general public. And so I decided to go in and do another research just to see where we stood 2 years later. And what I found was, so this time I actually did we did a very in-depth research. We went through each case, and what we found that is not only are we not being, but we black people are not being, killed at any kind of disproportionate rate. But the conclusion was that it's not. I think they said it was something. I think this particular website says it's something like we as black people are being killed at 26%, and we're only our race is only about 13% of the American public or American demographics. And so what I found that is after we took away all of the armed and dangerous people who were committing crimes, and all of the people who were the accidents, say if a cop was, say speeding, which was probably it was probably 2%, I would say, that a cop was, kind of on his way to I guess in case of a suspect, and the cop may have hit someone with the car or something like that. And then to remove the fact that, the cops were there was a lot of cases where cops were off duty and they were assaulted or their house was broken into, and they fired upon the suspect or the perpetrator who put their lives in danger. And so that was a lot of cases of those. And so if you take away all of that kind of hot air is what I call it, you find that it's less than 6% of the of officers involved killing of black people, and these are unarmed black people, and
So they cook the books. They cook the
Say
books.
again?
They cook the books.
Oh my God, extremely. I mean, I'm talking about extreme. I would say about 78% of those who were killed were armed. They were armed. They were committing crimes. They were, shooting. They were in bank robberies. I mean, in domestic issues with their other halves. They were stabbing them. I mean, these are some heinous crimes. And then the other half, that was. I mean, I would say the other maybe. About 20% of that was either accidents or things like that. So it wasn't like it's not like this huge thing that Black Lives Matter would like America to believe that somehow officers are out there, law enforcement are out there, kind of shooting down black people everywhere they turn.
We're talking to Howard Nelson Cromwell of the Conservative Urbanite. Go to my Facebook page and check out the amazing article that he has written about the Black Lives Matter movement. Also, search for him, Howard Nelson Cromwell, like his Facebook page, and be sure to get connected with the Conservative Urbanite. Now, Howard, we have like a minute and a half left, and I want to quickly ask you, what's it like being a young black conservative Republican? Do you get a lot of backlash, especially in Northern Virginia, D.C., where you are?
Absolutely. It's funny. We always say that there's actually a community of black Republicans, but we call ourselves unicorns. And the thing that I think it's very different with me, I'm also part of the LGBTQI, letter.
The alphabet.
So for me, I call myself a unicorn. I've always been a conservative. I've always been liberal. I believe, it's the greater good is for America, not the individual. But it's this is a one-party system in Washington D.C., and we really don't have representation, and we don't have representatives, of course, in the Senate, but even in Congress and in our local government. And so it's challenging, but I say that we fight the good fight. And so I have a great community of kind of free thinkers that I talk to, I communicate with all over the world, and it keeps me good. I feel like I'm making a little change.
You're making a huge change, and thank you for this incredible expose on Black Lives Matter. Thank you for all of the work that you're doing on behalf of conservatives, and thank you for bringing so many different people, unicorns, together and showing that we can indeed unite.
Absolutely, we definitely can. I just want to say, first of all, I don't know if you checked it, but I heard you speaking about your 12 Days of Christmas, and I'm actually in love. I'm in love with the Two Road Chicks website. I mean, your
my YouTube
your page,
channel.
Your channel.
You were
channel.
one of my very first supporters, one of my very first subscribers, and I will never forget that.
But I actually did. I made your Fireball nuts the other night, and I posted them all over the internet. But
I missed that.
Oh my God! Yeah, I posted them. They were so delicious. They were more delicious than when you put the recipe out last year. But yeah, I did them, and I'm in Philadelphia now. I'm visiting some friends and some family for holidays, and I brought a bunch of them for them. So, so we'll see how this works when I leave here. Actually,
you're so sweet, Howard. Thank you so much, and we are definitely going to have you back, and we're going to push that conservative urbanite movement. Thank you. You're such a joy.
Thank you. Happy holidays, Carla.
Happy holidays to you. News Radio 1140 WRVA. That was Howard Nelson Cromwell. I will have all of his information on my Facebook page, facebook.com/thatcarlacash. That's who I am, and you're listening to News Radio 1140 WRVA.
Hey guys, it's the Conservative Urbanite. Thanks so much for checking us out. If you like what you've read, saw, or heard, please be sure to share, follow, like, and subscribe to our social media platforms. Also be sure to join our TCU tribe of free-thinking conservatives via our Facebook group. If you loved what you've read, saw, or heard, please consider supporting the Conservative Urbanite, which is personally funded with a monthly or one-time donation via our Patreon account or at www.theconservativeurbanite.com/donate, where every little bit helps us to bring you better content. Thanks again and have a great day.